Hi everyone, my name is Jake Evans. I'm the managing editor at iGaming Next, and it's my pleasure to introduce to you Vsevolod Lapin, who is the head of product at the Malta-based game studio Playson. We've got a really exciting Power Hour session lined up for you today. So first of all, Vsevolod, welcome. How are you doing?
Hi Jake, nice to see you. All good, thank you. How about you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you very much. Great to have you with us today. I was just on your LinkedIn page actually doing some research, and I noticed you used to work for the Coca-Cola company before you joined the gaming industry. How did you go from like fizzy drinks to online gambling?
Well, that's even more fun, right? Actually, I was always interested in working in the tech industry, and I was always passionate about gaming. And gambling is very much an epitome of gambling, right? So you can't go wrong with that. And I joined Playson in 2017, and it's going well so far with this company.
Yeah, good. That's a nice little introduction. And you're right. If you're into technology, then there's few better sectors to be in than online gambling, I would say. Yeah. So yeah, just looking a bit more closely at the topic we've got for you in this Power Hour session, it's going to be on the topic of player retention, and we're going to look at the past, present and future of promotional tools and gamification in slots, which are all really designed to inspire customer loyalty. But yeah, we're gonna get some of your insights on that, Severo, I think later today. So if we start off with the basics, it's probably the best place to start. Why do you think player retention and customer loyalty are important in slots?
Well, of course, this is the lifeline to long-term survival of any business. And of course, building on the retention and maximizing the lifetime value is what everyone is fighting for today, because the share of attention you can get of any player, any customer basically, is getting so low with so much content. So obviously keeping this small share of players that usually contribute the majority of your revenue is highly critical. And we at Playson understand that, and we know, for example, that just 3% of our players contribute about 40-50% of our total bets. So understanding this loyal base, retaining them is what will actually is extremely vital for any kind of business, but in gambling especially so with the amount of content we see today.
Yeah, that's true. I think, that's a situation all entertainment businesses are facing at the moment. I think I read somewhere recently that the average sort of online savvy user has an attention span of about 8 seconds these days. I think TikTok is probably to blame for that, to be honest. But yeah, it's a similar issue in gaming as well. Yeah, I mean, if we stick with slots, obviously, by their very nature, they're gamified to a degree. They're obviously a game. Which overlaps with gambling, and that's a huge part of why people enjoy them and keep coming back to play them. If we look at gamification as a kind of retention tool, why do you think that's important to add kind of further layers of gamification to a game?
Yeah, sure. You basically frame it really in a very right way, that slots are already gamified, and we should not forget that players are coming for slots to play slots, not to play just engagement tools. And at the core of everything lies the great game mechanics, math, art, great user experience, and this will always lie at the core. And everyone is talking about a lot of things that will change in the future, but we also need to remember things that will not change for a while. And these basics of slots, these parts of the equation will not change. However, with this shortening attention span and the number of disruptors, such as different forms of entertainment that are fighting for attention, something needs to be added on top, and especially so in the past few years when the content so much moved into the mobile, and the mobile actually changes the equation a lot, because you get shorter sessions but more often, and you get this shorter attention span. So as a player, what are my reasons to visit a particular content more often, to play a particular game more often? So the engagement tools actually provide this additional reasoning for me. So usually a good engagement tool provides an on-top benefit. It's not something that is taken from the core game, which is really bad usually, but something that goes on top and makes you even more interested in getting back, not only for the core gameplay, but to get any additional prizes, bonuses, some excitement there. So yeah, engagement tools are actually adding another layer and reasoning to come back more often and fight for attention.
Yeah, totally. I think, I was just thinking about what you're saying there about different gamified modes to get the player to keep coming back. I don't know if you're familiar with the word game Wordle that seems to have completely exploded recently. You just guess a 5-letter word each day, and you only get the chance to guess one word every day, but that's enough to keep people coming back day after day and posting their results to Twitter. I don't know if they've even managed to, monetize that platform yet, but they've kind of by accident invented the perfect retention tool, haven't they, to keep people coming back to try and beat the challenge. Yeah, it's good fun. It'll frustrate you and delight you in equal measure, I think. So I'd recommend it.
That sounds like a good product.
Yeah. So if we talk about technology, I mean, we've already said the gaming sector is right on that cutting edge of cutting edge technology. I mean, especially in the world of slots. Did the pandemic make any difference to some of those user habits that you're talking about? You said obviously huge share of players on mobile, and we know that mobile gaming, online gaming, particularly online casino, kind of just soared during the pandemic. Were you able to take any learnings from that?
Yeah, of course. Obviously, the sheer number of players coming into gaming and gambling during the pandemic is just staggering, and majority of those players are coming to play on mobile, and this shifted the balance towards mobile even more. So providing really pitch perfect, great mobile experience, great mobile UI became really crucial, and in my opinion, one of the best innovations the industry can provide, and actually it might sound a bit boring, but really clear-cut mobile experience and providing really clear-cut mobile UI. So the good UI is the UI you won't notice. So it should be lightweight, it should be very invisible for you, because you should focus on the core aspect of what you're playing. And this was one of the actually big challenges in the team, and we focused really hard to push out the latest version of UI as soon as possible to complement that. And the other thing is that's actually impacting a lot, and it's a bit far from the moonshot technologies in my opinion, because the biggest changes will come with things that sound a bit more boring as well, is of course, content delivery speeds, the internet speeds, the advent of 5G. Basically, ideally, we would like to have games loaded immediately, and this also contributes to this attention span factor. And of course, the mobile devices are getting better, the screens are getting better, so utilizing all that and using all this innovation smartly, not just chasing moonshot technologies, I think will be the name of the game in slots as well, to revolve around the core aspect of the game, which is actually good visuals, good math.
That's actually a really, really fascinating perspective, because this industry is obviously super competitive, and I think a way for companies to differentiate themselves is by shouting about the newest product they've got, or the most exciting feature. But what you say sort of counteracts that a little bit, and that is the core product needs to work perfectly, right, for people to be interested in it and for people to keep coming back. They're not going to do that if it's faulty or if it's a lagging user experience. So that's the priority for you, is it?
Of course, naturally. We understand that, as I said in the beginning, the things will not change for players are the things that they actually kept coming even to land-based casinos even before the online gambling was a thing. So this is the pure excitement of online slots, and we're trying actually in our product strategy to transfer this land-based excitement into the world of 21st century experience of mobile, but the core aspects remain the same. So the games, good games, have to be simple and somehow familiar, but also with the right pinch of innovation, that it's not actually alienating players, but adding something on top. This helps a lot. But also, I think at the same time, the engagement tools is where you can shout a bit louder, because this is where you can go a bit more crazy as a game provider. We have seen some examples with that, and since this good differentiator, and sometimes not as strictly, let's say, defined in the local regulations, this provides some more freedom to actually provide excitement, even there is more limitations driven by regulations. So what we're seeing is, of course, after the pandemic started, this crazy 6-digit, 7-digit prize funds going with the promotions. For us, in Playson specifically, tournaments, network tournaments are the regular thing that we do several times per month, with also very high prize funds ranging to 5-6 digits. And of course, investing heavily into some more moonshot types of engagement tools like Cash Blast and Wheel of Fortune that provide this in-game currency that you can spend in other games. So yeah, this is where you can go a bit more crazy than in just slot games, but the combination of both should be the key to what players like, right?
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I think you're right that the pandemic, whilst it was good overall for the online sector, it also drove a lot of regulation, didn't it? Politicians were noticing the amount of online casino gameplay that was going on, and that brought in regulations in Sweden. We've obviously seen Germany clamp down on slots as well. And you think, these gamification tools and these retention tools are free to play, aren't they? So there's perhaps a little bit more room for creativity there, shall we say?
Yeah, exactly. For us, regulated markets are a very big focus. And for example, our presence in Italy, Greece is extremely important, and engagement tools were instrumental in engaging more players and engaging them better. Because, for example, using our Wheel of Fortune or using our tournaments, either it's a short-term campaign-based tool or a long-term retention-based tool, it was very important to give some additional reasons to come back. Especially so with, just as you mentioned, Sweden, especially when there is a factor of this seasonal or limited time additional limitations, which Sweden has recently implemented for the summer period to also limit the exposure to the gambling of the players. So by adding this extra and not basically asking a lot back from the players and giving you additional reasons, let's say, to earn these additional coins that you can spend in the game, is something that players should be very happy about, because this is not a limitation. This actually adds another degree of freedom into the game itself.
Yeah, totally. And virtual currency is something that's a very hot topic at the moment, right, in the whole wider sort of digital online entertainment space. And it's obviously something that you offer to your customers as well, alongside the leaderboards and everything else. How does the kind of virtual currency, how do you see that working in slots? And have you noticed any kind of overlap between slots players and those that are maybe interested in disruptive technology and cryptocurrency, that kind of thing?
Well, cryptocurrency by nature is a form of gambling, shall we say so. Binance, Coinbase are probably one of the biggest gambling platforms. So
the trading platforms.
I cannot say about this overlap immediately, but for sure the role that virtual, let's say, internal currency can play in the games is instrumental, because it provides an additional justification to be within the ecosystem of a particular game provider, of particular games. Even if a game provider has different games, so for example, you can have more volatile games, more classic games, still by having this amount of coins and having a possibility to earn coins in one game, spend coins in a different game is very important for us right now. We're just in the beginning of this path, because we have this system of collecting coins with a Wheel of Fortune, and just one game which is called the Wheel of Fortune, where you can immediately win either more coins or additional real cash as a player. This provides opportunity to add much more gamification within this module, and actually this provides a really positive link to the game provider for you as a player, because you have something more than just your usual deposited balance basically there, and more reasons to come back.
Yeah, okay, that is interesting. And what would you say are like some of the use cases for this virtual currency? Obviously, that's almost another learning that's been taken from video games. You think of the biggest franchises, right? So you have FIFA Ultimate Team, for example, you get virtual coins where you can buy players, or in Warzone or in Fortnite, you get coins where you can kind of upgrade your equipment and your weapons and everything else. So what can slots players use it for?
Well, that is completely different but also interesting angle of personalization, which we have not dived into before.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not sure if this might have a lot of traction with slots, because slots are not, let's say, online slots are not really a social thing, because in land-based you might be competing with other players on the game floor who gets more luck, but slots are sort of more individual experience, right? Not until the moment you're playing in some tournament, but usually it's an individual experience. So I think this virtual currency is not about so much of personalizing the game, but also getting some additional benefits, playing some additional, let's say, meta game, having access to some additional modes, converting it to bonus mode with maybe some really cool preset of multipliers in the beginning of free spins, for example. So I think it's about that, maximizing your enjoyment as a player, but not so much about personalization for the sake of socializing with other players, because I don't think that's an insight in the online slots that much.
Yeah, that's again a very interesting perspective, and interesting to hear you say that, because you say, like, you know, if you're in Las Vegas, you're going to be competing with other players, and we have this kind of view of slots it's not isolating, but it's very much an individual thing, right? It's the individual on their mobile phone, and they're playing their favorite slot, and they kind of keep themselves to themselves. But increasingly, we're seeing some companies try to bring a social element into slots, aren't we? And I'm sorry for going off script slightly here, but you know, there are companies that are trying to make a streaming platform, for example, of just slots players, and then people on the chat can interact and follow their favorite players along. Do you think that's developing? Do you think that's a gimmick? I mean, what is your personal perspective on that kind of thing?
I think globally what we're seeing is this huge moving trend towards meta storytelling. So it's not so much about playing, but also watching other people playing, and the streaming element here is in slots is very big. And I think the streamability of the content, how interesting it is not only to play but stream and watch your content streamed, is a big factor which we're also learning how to work with, because this means a slightly different approach to how you develop games, to keep the basics in the right way, to keep the game beautiful engagement, but also add something on top that will make it more interesting to watch. But in my opinion, this does not mean that it makes the whole experience more social. It means that there are more opportunities to engage, because of course when watching the, let's say, streamer, you have an opportunity to engage with other players, but deep inside each player is actually craves to get a share of this huge win, to get a share of this luck, to compete with other players, and these social elements, I think, is very challenging to integrate completely into slots. But this meta storytelling and streamability, and also the discussion of, let's say, games on popular resources like Big Win Board, is also a part of the experience. But at the core, I think it's very individual experience, even if it connects on some other areas. Enthusiasts that really love playing slots.
Yeah, I mean, that was an amazing answer, Vsevolod. Well done. As I know I put you on the spot there slightly, but yeah, really fascinating insights there. Obviously, just with that previous question, we touched on the kind of competitive element between players, but obviously with slot studios, there's a hugely competitive element between the different studios and the different companies, right? It's a really saturated market. They're all trying to differentiate. Yeah, you know it better than anyone. I just wanted to give you this sort of part of the Power Hour to maybe showcase some products in the Playson portfolio that you're particularly proud of, but also then to, you know, maybe bring in some of your competitors, shine a light on some innovation in the industry at a wider level that you really like or you're really fascinated by.
Yeah, so on one hand, what we see is that for the last several years, there were no huge disruptions in terms of core product mechanics on the market, to be honest. And everyone is trying to, of course, find this disruption, but the core elements are the same. And what we're trying to do is, when we're creating games, is to keep these innovations simple and really familiar for the players. So, for example, our Solar Queen game has these 10 spin cycles. So as a player, you have a very clear path towards seeing how you can get the full screen of wilds if you get lucky enough. and you understand when exactly that will happen. So this element of control, and this also fights back on this factor of reducing attention span, because you understand when to expect what exactly. You show this clear path to the player. The same